Hey there, it's Sava here. Everybody's got a Jamie Jury story, and now it's time to hear his. Join me for the next live recording of 3 Food Memories in Jamie's home. To get your tickets, search 3 Food Memories, Jamie Jury, and click on the St. Cloche website. September 6th. See you there.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the ground we stand on and thank them for allowing Papa to tell stories on these glorious lands we share.
My guest on this episode of 3 Food Memories is a writer, cook, and food storyteller with roots stretching from North Africa and the Middle East. Her people are viscerally proud and passionate, full of heart, tradition, and generosity. They stand their ground with dignity and strength, always rooted in respect and family. Her work explores all of these through stories of immigration and identity. In her world, food isn't just nourishment, it's archive, it's resistance, it's poetry, it's preservation. So it's with enormous anticipation for both of us that I welcome Karima Hazim of Sunday Kitchen to 3 Food Memories, recorded on a Tuesday here in her home. Ya salam, Habibti.
Hello.
All right, okay. So I'm going to start. I'm going to say something, and then you're going to do your version of what I'm going to say. My name is Savas Savas. I was born in 1974. I am a single father of twin 10-year-old boys. I am the son of Cypriot immigrant parents who came to Australia in 1954 and 1972. I run a catering business and host a talk show, and I love potatoes and filthy martinis. Your turn.
Okay. My name is Karima Hazim. I was born in... Is that where I'm going? I forgot what you said. My name is Karima Hazim. I am Australian-born Lebanese. I am the mother, I'm the wife of Abdul and the mother of 2 beautiful daughters, Layla and Eden. I grew up in Sydney and come from 2 migrant parents from Lebanon. And I am what I like to call myself now a food creative. I work in so many different spaces to do with food, anything from storytelling, writing to cooking and putting on events. I love to host. I developed this love for feeding and entertaining and nourishing from my beautiful mum, Savine. That's it.
How do you see yourself in the world?
Extremely fortunate, extremely proud. I'm a very creative being. I notice all the small details. And I think when I started to think about why am I here? What am I going to leave? What am I supposed to be doing here? All of these questions that came at me when I became a mother, they hit me smack bang in the face. I started to think about all of those small, colourful details I really never thought about up until that moment. So this would have been my late 20s, etching on my 30th birthday. And my memories all circled back to food.
So motherhood was a turning point for you where you just went, okay, I'm going to do something now. Would you say that your mother had a huge influence on this, your own mother?
Of course. My mum was sort of the central in terms of the influence. I remember when I was this is really can't believe I'm going to say this. No, when I was giving birth, I was in the hospital room, in the labour room. And I've got this fear of medication and, I rarely take a Panadol. I hate needles. I don't take needles. I don't do needles.
Don't look in my bathroom cupboard. It's full. That's broken.
So I avoid medication as much as I can. I try and nourish with tea and food and, I cook my way through a sickness. But yeah, I was in the labour ward and my grandmother, so my mum is number 14 of 15 children.
Wow.
So my grandmother had 15 children naturally at home.
On the kitchen table.
When I was in When I was in the labour room, I was in there with my grandma. My grandmother's passed away. She passed away when I would have been about 20. And she was in there with me. And she was in her very strong, you'd have to be very strong to have 15 children. In her way, she was talking me through this labour, and I was in dialogue with her, I shut everybody out, shut the doctors out, shut my husband out, shut my mum out, who was, stressed on the lounge. And I just realised, and I got through it, and it was a beautiful birth. It was a very empowering birth. And I realised I come from a lineage of very, very strong women. And there was something in there that I hadn't thought about before.
And what was that?
What our place really is. And, I had a daughter, and I went on to have another daughter. And I'm a very creative person. I started my career in fashion. I studied fashion. And what I took from that degree was storytelling. So that birthing moment and motherhood, I had this curiosity about my story and my mum and my grandmother and who we are and where we came from and how we have come to be.
So you discovered a whole library of books connected to,
I had all these questions that I needed to now ask. They never occurred to me before. I was just going through life, going on, collecting all of these memories.
Do you think this is a bit of a luxury that you had? Because the women before you,
absolutely,
for them it was about survival
absolutely.
And getting food on the table and keeping their families safe.
That's why I started with saying I feel very grateful. And I did, because my mum didn't have that same birthing experience and all that love around her and all of that. And my grandmother certainly wouldn't have had the same thing.
So you started Sunday Kitchen with your mum?
With my mum.
What is Sunday Kitchen?
So Sunday Kitchen started I naively thought that I just wanted to teach people how to cook. My mum there was this magic around her when she was cooking. All of the most beautiful, there's a lot of trauma growing up in a Lebanese family, but all of the beautiful moments.
We laugh about it, don't we?
We do. We laugh in hindsight. We're centered around food. And, the kitchen in our home was like my mum's theatre. It was her stage. And all of these little intricate things that I remember so distinctly, like how she'd wake up so early in the morning and we had like a black Sanyo stereo and it would play Fayrouz, and you just hear her sort of crooning in the background, and I'd wake up, and we didn't have this sort of formal, come, I'm going to teach you how to cook situation. It was, you were drawn into the kitchen because that's where I just saw my mum in her happiest state, fluffing around, preparing, getting little things ready for Sunday lunch. She loved to host.
Is that why it's called Sunday Kitchen?
Yeah. So first of all, when I had my children, I realized what an effort that was that my mum continued to do. This beautiful practice of bringing people over and around the table. And I had this natural desire to want to entertain, and it came off so seamlessly for me. It was so easy for me to do. So my friends and my extended family would say to me, how did you do this? How did you put on this spread? And I said, what do you mean? I did a little bit yesterday and I did a little bit. So I realized there was something I can teach here. I can teach people how to cook and how to put these spreads on. So Sunday Kitchen became a space for Mum and I to share with people. First of all, take the anxiety out of cooking and hosting and entertaining.
Because you didn't have any anxiety, nor did your mum.
Of course not. Not at all.
Of course not.
Not at all.
The thought of entertaining
it brings nothing but joy to me. Yeah. Whereas most people, the thought of entertaining to them just freaks them out. And this fast-paced world, everything is about 15-minute meals and, or let's just go for lunch on Sunday. No, you can do that. But you can also go on Saturday to the farmer's market and shop for things. And then,
what does it give you, this cooking from scratch?
It gives me a therapy. It's a slowing down. It's a present. I feel like I've definitely got ADHD. So, I feel in my most relaxed when I'm focusing on a task and I'm completing the task and finishing it. And the end result is not the dish. It's seeing people eat it and be so overjoyed. Like, you're never going to have guests that come, I mean, we don't, that are going to come and say, I didn't like that. Everybody leaves with this immense joy, and it was like, I couldn't imagine not doing that.
Let's start with your first food memory, Eid days at your grandparents' home as a child. Now, I've likened Eid before to Christmas. Exactly what is Eid in the Muslim calendar?
Eid is, exactly as you said, it is a religious celebration, and you would liken it to Christmas or Easter. So we have two main Eids a year. One is after Ramadan, so after an entire month of fasting, we sort of celebrate with 3 days of Eid, and it just involves having family over, making certain desserts, making certain things to host.
What are the stories about Eid in the Quran?
Okay. So one Eid is to commemorate the end of a month of fasting, and we fast to cleanse our bodies. We fast to feel with the poor, to feel with people who don't have a lot of food. Compassion, empathy. It's also not just fasting from food, it's fasting from water, abstaining from gossip, abstaining from...
Well, that must be very...
Don't gossip. Only when we're cooking. And just, it's a time to center yourself. It's a time to read the Quran. It's a time to, it's actually not what it's become now. Like, now it's all about the food. So after a long day of fasting, people put on, these big lavish, it's not supposed to be. You're supposed to break your fast with a date and have something very, very humble to eat, and then really spend your time praying, asking for forgiveness. You do spend time with family. It's a very beautiful thing to feed another fasting person. So this is why we host and have, especially on the weekend, we would bring people over so we can break our fast. Ramadan was such a fun time for us growing up. And then to have it followed by this beautiful celebration, going to the mosque in the morning, really, really early, listening to that call to prayer, spending, the 3 or 4 days before Eid making hundreds of little ma'moul biscuits, the ones that are stuffed with nuts. And it was whilst making these biscuits, my mum told me, all about her childhood and how they would make them. My grandparents were very famous sweet makers in Lebanon. So, all of these sort of food memories came up.
And so what in particular about Eid at your grandparents?
I don't know how I can remember Eid, like, to the detail of Wheel of Fortune being on the TV in the background. I remember everything. I remember sitting around, we had to sit on the floor, so you can imagine there's 15 children and they've all had a flock of their own children.
So how many cousins are...
We're about 80. Now, not all the children came to Australia. 3 stayed in Lebanon. So 12 of them were here. Lots of cousins, lots and lots and lots of cousins. And I think up until I was an early teenager, I thought that was across the board for everyone. I thought everyone had 80 cousins. So when I went to my Australian friends' birthday parties, and there was like, oh, I've got 3 cousins. I couldn't fathom that. I couldn't understand how you had 3. You could count them on your hands, because I didn't even know all of my cousins. That's how many there were. I make my mum always say it during the Sunday kitchen classes, because she's like, I come from a big family. I'm like, Mum, tell them how many people. Like, big family's like 5. And everyone's like, oh my God. And I have to explain to them, like, we're not like village people. My grandparents were not village people that just, decided to have 15 children. My grandparents they worked incredibly hard for about 30 years and built a sweet empire in Tripoli. My grandfather was extremely well known. He employed so many people as part of his, sweet shop. They came from horrific poverty, and they had children because they could. They had children because they wanted their kids to work in the sweet shop, and they had the potential to grow into this empire. You know, all my mum's elder siblings were some of the first females to go to university and travel abroad to study. So they had a social standing in Lebanon. So when I say there was 15 children, it was like they were this big sort of famous family that had lots of children. And
so this business provided opportunity.
Exactly, absolutely. And it afforded them the luxury of having a lot of children.
So Eid at your grandparents in Lakemba, was it Lakemba?
In Lakemba.
So explain, so you drive out there from where did you grow up?
I grew up in Western Sydney in Condell Park.
Okay,
so not too far.
Not too far.
So we all lived quite local to my grandparents.
So you'd arrive there and bit by bit everyone would descend on this little home?
Always dressed immaculately.
Yeah.
My mum, you know, Eid is all about brand new Eid clothes. So mum always had us in the most stunning outfits. Now that I look at them, I just think, oh my goodness, you know, she had such beautiful taste. Beautiful bows in our hair, and we'd all rock up. My grandparents so excited to see us. We'd always get lots of money because you don't give gifts at Eid, you give money, you give cash. We love cash.
How much would you kind of earn?
Hundreds. What do you mean? 100? Because the cousins were giving us cash as well.
Right, so it was just this
The older
exchange.
cousins were giving us cash.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Did you get to a certain age where the cash stopped?
Yeah, the cash stops when you're a teenager. And I'm like, that's when you need the cash. What are you guys doing? Giving a 5-year-old a $100 bill. Like, she's just walking around. You know what we used to say? We want the pink one, the $5 note. And mum would say, no, you don't. You want the green one. Oh, my goodness. They were the days.
The food. Let's go. So who cooked?
They all cooked.
Everybody cooked.
Everybody cooked. Someone went the day before, you know, and there were 2 enormous bessemer pots, you know, the bright orange bessemer pots.
Yeah.
And they'd have to put them on the floor because there was no table that was going to fit us. And so we'd have this big tablecloth on the floor and 2 enormous pots. One pot would have fasulia, which is like the beans cooked in a beautiful tomato broth with lots of lamb cuts on the bone. And I guess also thinking about dishes that could feed a crowd because there were so many of us. And there'd always be a pot of mlukhiyeh, which is like the mallow, the green sort of plant that's stewed with chicken, and an enormous pot of rice and bags of Lebanese bread, platters of really bright pink radish and mint and onion, and we'd all sort of put a plate and take your plate. You just congregate in different parts of the house. Some of us would sit outside.
How noisy was it?
It was alive. There was bickering and there was joy. There was Eid music playing. There was Wheel of Fortune playing. There was conversation. My childhood, because of those memories, was incredible. I could never replicate that for my children.
The sweet component of this meal.
Okay, so on Eid, you come with platters of sweets from the Lebanese sweet shop.
So nobody makes them?
I mean, we made marmoud. My mum always made marmoud, the little biscuits, but still everybody, you know, mum was the only one that made the marmoud. Everybody else would buy sweets. So there was a plethora of sweets. There was always, I could smell Lebanese coffee. Yeah. It was constant. Like, it was just always on. I feel like there was a corner of the kitchen of my grandmother's tiny kitchen that just had a rakwi, enormous rakwi, going from one to another. And they would just fill it up, empty it. I mean, how many glasses could you fill? You'd need another one going straight
Tell
on.
me, as you got older, did your responsibilities during these Eid celebrations increase?
They stopped because my grandparents passed away.
And then how old were you when they died?
So I was 10 when my jaddo died. My jaddo was born in 1908. So 1998, he passed away at 90.
Right.
And I was 10 years old.
And then what happened? Did they continue?
They really ended when he passed. And then there was some kind of something that resembled Eid continued for a few more years while my grandmother was still alive, but it was never the same. So yeah, I mean, mum in her own way continued her own things. So we started to have more of Eid celebration at our house, and we would invite cousins and we'd have friends and all of that. But the Eid memories at my tata's house, that ended in terms of, you can't replicate that. Very, very hard. It was just because it wasn't organized. It was chaos, but it was magic.
So your mum, what's it like working closely with your mum?
It's a joy. I'm learning all the time. I mean, we butt heads all the time as well in terms of like.
But that's a cultural thing.
Of course. And not just that. It's a creative thing. You know, mum has her ways and I love her ways and have adopted, but you know, I'm 20 years younger, so I see things in a different light. I've also got this creative flow going, and it's how I want to celebrate the food. It's how I want to talk about the food. And I live in the detail. Whereas mum's just like, just add a bit of this and throw a bit of that and do it. And I said, Mum, we've got to write this down. I need to know what this is.
So your mum's cooking skill, how was it developed? So she's 14. Mm-hmm. So let's look at, you know, the mummy and daddy duck, and then there's 15 other ducks. She's like right at the other end. She could have got run over, let's just say. Where did her cooking skills develop?
Well, I feel like cooking out of necessity and having to help. So mum's journey into the kitchen was very different to mine. She had to help. There were so many mouths to feed. I mean, they weren't all living at home at the same time.
Was she afforded an education?
Very.
Right.
Yes. So they left Lebanon as soon as the civil war broke out. And my grandmother went to Cyprus and got a visa to come to Australia. And she brought 6 of the last 6 that were still at home. The first 9 were married and some of them had come to Australia. Others were living abroad, working, studying, married, children.
So what are her recollections of leaving Lebanon? I mean, we're talking Lebanon back then they call it the Paris of the Middle East.
Yeah.
It was cosmopolitan. It was music flowed, song, dance.
She was in a private school, a private French school. She was the youngest daughter of this big sweet shop, and she had all these older siblings, and my grandparents were well known by then, by the time my mum came around. Like I said, they had a status in the community.
So her world was shredded by war.
It was. And she's actually, along with 8 other women, put their short stories together of what it was like 2 weeks before they left. And when they came to Australia, and they wrote a book about it because it was profound.
These war stories, were they concealed? Did you know that they existed?
Well, they're not spoken about because we have a big shame culture and we don't want to be negative. And they've got this, they've come to Australia and they've made a better life. They don't want to talk about the bad stuff.
They've left it behind.
They've left it behind.
For survival?
For survival, I couldn't believe when I started to cook alongside my mum in my late 20s, how much about my own family history I didn't know. And I was only able to get the information out of her while she was cooking because, you don't just call your mum to come over and have a coffee and, Mum, talk about your life. She's just not going to do that. She's too busy telling me what to do. So while we were rolling vine leaves, 4 hours, an enormous pot, you get some juicy stuff out.
And you probably know when she's going to give and when she's not going to, and when to prod or where to pull a thread to get more information out of her. I started to know, and then I started to use those tactics on my friends' grandparents and their mums, and I started to ask the questions that, and I'd be shooed out of the kitchen because they would say, I don't want to talk about this. This is traumatic. Yes, but at some point it has to come out, doesn't it? Because it festers and stays. Not just that. We say that because we're in a fortunate position, but for them, I would imagine. When I think about some of the most challenging times in my life, it's when I lent into those stories that I was able to, that's how I get through a bad day. I think about all of the challenges and adversity that whether it was my grandparents or all of the migrant community, that generation that really got uprooted. They didn't pack their bag neatly and say, let's go buy a ticket to go to Australia. It was do or die. Let's go to Australia via Dubai and we'll have a little stopover and buy a little perfume.
No,
and buy
it was
some Botox,
absolutely
but
nothing.
It wasn't that at
with
all.
children hanging off them, with all of the issues and all of the things and the heartbreak and leaving a community behind.
No one leaves their home.
No one does. No one does.
If they have to.
And a lot of I call them my subjects, the Lebanese women that I've interviewed and asked questions and researched, I've only been able to do so while they're cooking because they're in their element.
And comfort zone.
Comfort zone.
Yeah.
And they're like doing something with their hands and they're just rambling and talking and telling me. And it doesn't always happen. You know, I've had the door shut on me many times. They don't want to talk. It brings up too much. They don't even see the value in it. It's like, it's gone. It's happened. We don't need to dwell there. But I'm like, there is so much gold there that we could use because.
And what do we do with this gold?
Well, I mean, first of all, I only really understood the word resilience. I only really understood the word war. I mean, what kind of war do we know? I'm born in Australia. I've had the most beautiful, privileged, fortunate life. War seems like this really old black and white thing, when in fact it was very much the center of our family. It was the center of our life. I mean, I'm here because of war. My mum wasn't supposed to be here. My grandparents came in their late 60s, early 70s. Why would they want to come to Australia?
So they walked away from this.
Just imagine.
Sweet empire.
Just imagine. Put the empire aside, the community. My grandmother and all of the women that she knew circling around her. People ask me all the time, how did she have 15 children? Because she could. Because she had a doula living in the building. My mother was breastfed, but not by my grandmother, by the wet nurse, by the neighbor who breastfed multiple women in the building.
Reminds me of that fantastic early 2000s movie set in Lebanon. Caramel. Did you see the one of it's centered around a beauty therapist, a hairdressing salon, and they make the wax out of sugar.
Yeah, that was my child. My grandparent. That used to happen at my grandmother's house. My poor cousins. I was like 7 or 8. My daughter's age now, and I would just hear the girls go into the bathroom, scream, and come out crying because my grandmother waxed their legs with the sugar. That's what they would. I haven't thought about that. That's a food memory, isn't it? That's toffee. Oh my goodness. I haven't thought about that ever. I've never thought about that.
Well, did you ever get it? Well, you were.
No, I was too young. I was hairless. By then, I was still hairless. Oh my goodness. I want to call my cousin when I'm done and just remind her. I'm so doing that. I'm going to message her and just go, sugar wax, Data's house. My mum tells this amazing story. We wrote it in the book. My grandparents, so they were almost 20 years apart. My grandmother was like 14 when she got given, 12 or 14, she got given to my grandfather, who was in his 30s, because they couldn't afford to keep her. And he wanted to get married, so she lived with him until she could marry him.
And he looked after her?
They got married very, very quickly when she became a woman, and they were horrifically poor. So she got some sugar and water and made some toffee, cut it up, put it on a tray, only filled half of it, and got him on a donkey. She got a donkey as her dowry and said, go and sell these sweets. They were living in the poorest neighborhood in Tripoli. And she filled half the tray so everybody could think he had already sold the other half of the tray.
What a clever woman.
And he came back and the sweet tray was empty. And they used that money to buy more sugar, and they kept doing that until they built a shop that employed 100 men.
Let's move on to your second food memory. Now, this one takes us to Vietnam.
So I studied a fashion degree and was presented with an opportunity to semi-relocate to Vietnam to manufacture clothing. So I would go there for a few months at a time, make the clothes, come back, do showings, do fashion week. We had a little shop in Paddington that we would sell out of. So I had a couple of years that I was back and forth from Vietnam. So I gave you a food memory of an experience that I had. I was very, very young. So fresh out of uni, I would have been 22 years old. I use the word naive because I did not know anything yet. I knew what I knew and that was it.
But that was enough for you to take on the world of fashion.
Big culture shock, although because we had done so many trips to Lebanon growing up, when I landed in Ho Chi Minh City, when I landed in Saigon and sort of came out of the airport, it looked like Lebanon to me. The chaos, but the organized chaos, the haze, it was summer, it was so hot. It felt very familiar because Beirut is like that, especially when you land at the airport and you're trying to sort of worm your way out in a cab. Everything just seemed, I remember turning to my business partner and just being like, this is very familiar to me.
Oh, so this fashion business was yours?
Was mine.
So you're you're not working for anyone else?
No.
This is you, 22, I'm going to Vietnam, we're going to do blah.
Yeah, yes.
So this is where your naivety really worked in your favour, didn't it?
Didn't know what we were doing. Just two crazy cats. Just, let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, so get to Vietnam, meet a translator, but she ended up being like she was the eyes and ears in Vietnam when we weren't there. She was a beautiful woman called Hong. We developed this beautiful relationship with one another. One thing that I always looked forward to at the end of the day was what we were going to eat, what the meal was. So there was this food obsession that I had and wanting to eat. You know, she thought we were two Westerners coming from Australia, although she'd never seen anyone that looked like me. So the guy that I was working with was, Australian facing. So there was plenty of expats living in Vietnam at the time. So he looked very familiar. Whereas this bronze Lebanese girl had very, very curly natural hair. Well, I had to because of the humidity there. So there were no blow dries. That was in Vietnam. In my skimpy dress coming out of the hotel we were staying in.
So the hair was Lebanese, but the outfit wasn't.
What do you mean? They're the skimpiest of dresses. And she'd want to take me to these Western restaurants and eateries. And I'd say, I don't want to eat that. I want to eat on the street. Tell me about this dish and where this came from. So there was this hunger and desire to learn more about the food and just this joy and love that I have for food coming out. And I particularly remember meeting this tailor for the first time, the tailor that we were working with. Because we were so small, we couldn't afford to go to a big production house in Saigon. So we had to go sort of a bit more remote, about an hour drive to a bit of a rural area where we could just work directly with a tailor and make small runs of whatever we were making. Now, these tailors don't speak any English. They've never really come into contact with foreigners, and they definitely have never seen me. I mean, I could have told them I was Beyonce and they would have believed me. Like, they would have just believed me because who are you and where do you come from?
So for a 22-year-old, very naive, you sure had a bit of insight on how to execute this little business.
I don't even know if I did. I don't even know. I was just winging it. I was like, how am I going to turn this opportunity down? I was working with this guy at a menswear boutique because I needed to make some money. And he was like, you're too good for this. Let's go start a business. Let's start a fashion label. It's been my dream. So I kind of just went with the flow. He was the business guy and I was just doing what I just spent 4 years.
You were adding flavour.
I was doing my thing. Lots of mistakes, lots of wins, lots of learnings. Anyway, meet this tailor. He's an extremely esteemed tailor. Everybody in the town knows him. Everybody's had their suits made by him. He is a master. Like when I saw him work, his workroom, he lived in the studio. His workroom was on the ground level, and then the level above is where his family slept. And I just saw the body language between the interpreter, or Hong, let's call her Hong because that's her name. When she saw him, she revered him. She was so almost awkward. She had so much respect for him. So I could see, and this was also something very common in Lebanese culture. We have this endearment for our elders and we have this respect for our elders. And so I could see from the body language, this man is important. This man is very talented. He's special. And I'm just showing him these outrageous designs, things that he's never made. He obviously needed to make some money, which is why he had taken on a job like us. He had agreed to do it. But there was a very big disconnect between him and I first of all, I don't understand what she's translating. So I'm explaining to her. She's taking the little English that she knows from me and workshopping that into a description to him about what the design is, what fabric I have in mind, how I want it to fit, what I'm expecting it to do, and all of that kind of thing. And I just sort of see him, he wasn't into it. He'd be looking at me like, who are you and what are you doing here? The designs were definitely beneath him. You know, this man is a tailor. He does tailoring. He does men's blazers.
Did you feel out of place?
Extremely. I was like, what am I doing here? This
Wasting his time?
Wasting his time, embarrassed. There's 20 something years between us. There's all this experience between us. I am not even a spring chicken. I am like before that. The only thing I have done is a fashion degree. I've got a fancy paper. There's no experience. There's no life experience. Anyway, I'd be sitting in the workroom. Hong would be doing her thing, translating. They'd be discussing. There's a tenseness in the room. I could feel it, you know. We're from two completely different worlds. And we're trying to, and there needs to be so much of a harmony between the designer and the pattern maker, the tailor, the sample machinist. But I would distract myself with his wife, who would be in the kitchen, and she'd have Vietnamese music on, and she'd just be dancing around the kitchen cooking. She'd be making lunch, and that was my mum. Exactly. I'm like, this is familiar to me. I know what this is like. I know what she's doing. She's making lunch for everybody, and she would always be smiling. Every time I caught her eye, and she'd be coming in and out, getting ingredients. They had a fridge outside. They had this in here, this in there. Everybody else was busy working, and she was just doing her thing in there. And I'd just be hypnotized on her. I was watching her and smelling all the aromas coming out of the kitchen, and they would stop. So our meeting would finish, and it'd be time for them to have lunch. So the whole workroom stops, and everybody has lunch together because they're in a house. They're in the family home. And that was our time to leave. One day we would have visited, I don't know, maybe 6 times. And so Hong would make a scurry for us to leave. Come on, Karima, let's go pack all our things and shuffle out. And just before we left once, I said to her, I wish I could eat. And she had brought out duck, and they had, you know, all this beautiful, very traditional home-style Vietnamese food. But there was duck, there were rice paper rolls, there was this beautiful noodle dish salad that she had put on the table. And I just said to Hong, I wish I could eat that. I just wish I could eat that. And she was like, stop it, Karima. Like, she would always, you know, because that was out of place to say. And she didn't want to have to, she didn't want me making a scene. She was just like, come on, let's go. And the tailor's wife had said to her, what did she say? And she was like, oh, nothing. And she said, no, what did she say? And she said, she just said that she wants to have lunch with you guys. You know that old El Paso commercial? When they're talking and then they erupt. That's what happened. Both of their faces, the tailor and his wife, just ignited. They couldn't believe that this crazy young girl,
you would be interested
in wanting to eat their food.
Let's look at this for a second. So here is you thinking that he's not interested in your work, all right? And
in my world, in who I am and what I'm doing.
But the minute you show interest in what they're breaking rice around.
That's right.
Their attitude.
Because everything about me broke all the rules. I'm in my little tight dress. I've got these flamboyant designs. I'm just crazy. Nothing made sense to him.
And then it did.
And then we had common ground. We just had something.
Mashallah.
We worked together for almost 4 years.
I knew this story was coming.
After that. We ate lunch together at every sitting.
There's something quite brave about starting a business like this and have a little boutique in Paddington, you know, a little fashion suburb in inner Sydney. But then to let it go. Yeah. Why did you let it go?
Oh, so many reasons. Again, very young and stupid. Disagreements with the team that I was working with. And feeling like I don't have a place here. I also met my husband and wanted to get married, wanted to have a family, knew I couldn't straddle both worlds. Fashion had sucked so much out of me because with this brave face that I put on to start a business, I also sacrificed a lot of time. You know, I invested so much of my time. So for so many years, I didn't have weekends because I was working at the shop. I missed out on certain things because I was overseas or I was doing. So I felt like I needed to be myself again. I wasn't in love with the work like I thought I was. And you know what? It just ended. I left it at a really, really good time. I'm still in touch with Hong. I still speak to her. I'm hoping to go to Vietnam soon to see her. I've kept up with what she's doing, and it was time.
It was time. So now, well, you met your husband, then you have 2 daughters, Layla and Eden. Do they spend time with you in the kitchen?
They spend a lot of time with me, reluctantly sometimes. At one point, my daughter Layla is like, Mum, is this all we do? Do we only cook? I'm like, look at how much fun we're having. Food is where they see me. It is the center of our day. I mean, they'll wake up in the morning and I would have already started preparing something for dinner in the early hours of the morning.
Do you eat at the table?
We eat at the table.
So do they sit around the bench?
So usually during the week we sit around the bench. We wait for Dad to come home and we have our own little dinner. That's very, very important to me.
So they see you moving around the triangle there between the sink, the stove and the fridge?
Yeah.
Boom,
they
boom,
see
boom.
me running back from gymnastics pickup, freaking out on the drive because I've left something on the stove. And Layla's like, don't tell me you left something in the oven again. I'm like, it still needed 10 minutes.
What is your favourite thing to cook for the children?
My daughter Eden is 5. She loves to eat. She definitely loves to eat, but she's not as... Layla loves food. Layla was humming from the minute she started eating. So she makes this hum while she eats, while she's eating.
There's a singer that actually has a hum right through her whole album.
Really?
What is her name? It reminds me of that. I'll think about that in a minute. But she hums right through, 15 tracks of her album, and it's the most beautiful thing.
That's Layla. I mean, anyone that has us over, you can just hear Layla humming in the background. She loves her food.
Were you like that with food at their age?
I don't know if I was at their age, but it wasn't my mum's job, so it wasn't being sort of rammed down their throats. I mean, food is such a massive part of our life because it's my work as much as it's my joy. Whereas at home, it was my mum's, it was what my mum did after work, it's what she did before work, whereas it is my work. So everything is about food. I'm always making food, preparing food, talking about food, explaining it, asking her, what are you tasting? So she loves when I make chicken in the oven. And she tells me, Mum, I mean, when she first said this, when she started to articulate, she said, I don't know why this makes me feel fuzzy. It makes me feel something, and it's cooked with bay leaves and cinnamon sticks and, all of those beautiful aromas that linger and stay around the kitchen for at least the day and the next day. So I love making them. My youngest daughter now, Eden, loves to eat gabinayu, which is the raw meat, and I love seeing her just pull apart the bread and go in and rub it in the olive oil and it's dripping down her hands. And
now let's talk about your handsome. Can we call him handsome? Your husband?
Of course you can call. You have to call him.
He's a
movie star. He hates it when I call him that, but he looked like a movie star to me when I met him.
Now he actually is beyond handsome. I mean, you've got a few photos of him on social, so we're going to probably drop one or two in there. But he is a brilliant father.
He is.
And a huge supporter of yours and your family. Yeah. And this is nothing that is new to you because your father was that person growing up as well.
Yes. My dad was an incredible provider. My dad had such a difficult life and I still have to unpack that every day because when I see all of the luxuries I've been afforded and my children, and I think about, the fact that my dad never went to school ever. My dad's never seen the inside of a school. That was never going to be on the cards for him. And how he has been able to transform his life, give his 3 daughters everything they've ever needed in the material sense, because it couldn't be everything else. My dad gave us everything he didn't have,
Yeah.
My dad gave us all of the things that he
He probably gave you
desperately
what he wanted.
what he wanted us, what he wanted.
Yeah.
And he gave them all to us. And my husband, Abdul, does that for me and my girls very much so.
What does he make of all this cooking? I mean,
So he
cooking
ma-
and his food travel. He's
I
just
have gone
along for the
through
ride.
so many lives with Abdul. He's seen me. He met me as a fashion designer. I was still involved in my business. I was on my way out. So that was he got that. And then I went through I don't know what I'm doing with my life phase. And then I became a mother very quickly. So he saw me in that lens. And then he basically saw me imagine what I wanted my life to be and just watched me do it and kept reminding me, you can do it. You deserve this. You are the best. Abdul's the type of person that is do it and then figure it out. Like do it
Did he
first.
have sisters?
He's got 6 sisters.
So
He's the only boy.
only boy.
So I married the number 7, the youngest boy of 6 older girls.
So he came to you with good training.
I don't know about that, but he's definitely come from a family of very strong women. And so
So you were not foreign to him.
I was not foreign to him. He must have seen a lot of similarities in the characters and in my traits. He says to me often, you remind me so much, oh, you're just like my mum, you're just like my mum. And bless his mum, I've got a beautiful relationship with her. She's a beautiful person.
So boys do marry their mothers,
The
like
boys-
girls marry their fathers.
Somewhat. Yeah, not entirely, but there are definitely things there, for sure.
Your third food memory are figs at your uncle and grandparents' home in Lebanon.
Yes.
Let's go back to the Mediterranean.
That was my childhood.
How often did you go back to Lebanon?
Oh, my crazy parents, like my mum was 20, almost 21 when she had me. So a baby,
Yeah, well-
baby. My dad is like 6 years older than her. So he was about 27, 28. They came to Australia the year the war stopped. So there was a civil war for 19 years. They came to Australia. They went back to Lebanon. They went back to Lebanon the year the war stopped. So they took their 2 little daughters. God, I was 2 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And then we continued to go almost every year. But our Lebanon trips were in the village, in my dad's village. Yeah, we would stay at my grandmother's house and my uncle with his 10 children lived there. We would sleep on the floor because that's where all the kids... This was like, look at the 2 worlds I had. I had my grandparents' place in Australia, in Lakemba, where we would have Eid and we would have every Sunday going and visiting surrounded by cousins. And then these Lebanon trips for, summers at a time or winters at a time, surrounded by cousins my age.
All the time.
All the time, sleeping on the floor. All of his sisters lived, he had 2 sisters and 1 brother, and they all lived within walking distance. Everybody in the village were kind of related to one another. So we would wake up in the morning, go for a walk to the bakery, go for a walk to the little shop, go for a walk to the ice cream shop. And there was nothing, like when I think about these holidays, it's not like my parents could afford to take us on a lavish holiday, but it wouldn't have costed them much. They just needed the flights there. And we would have the most incredible time. Like I knew what a chickpea was, a green chickpea. Like, do you know what a green chickpea look like? A fresh chickpea. Do you know what it looks like?
No.
So my memories and figs and apricots and all of these things that, you come to love and appreciate as an adult. I had exposure to them from such a young age in the natural raw form in such big quantities. So my cousins and my uncle would take us to a plot of land they had, which was growing these chickpeas. So they grow on a kind of plant this tall, and they're little green pods, and they've got the chickpea inside. And you've got to pop them open. They taste like a sweet pea. They're absolutely delicious.
I have the same relationship with carob off the tree.
Amazing.
The
exactly.
boys and I, we pick it.
But I only knew what carob was in its natural form as an adult. And a lot of people don't know what chickpeas are and, figs and all of these types of things, where even the pressing of the extra virgin olive oil, like all of these things that I had exposure to from such a young age. And I could almost draw the tree and the layout of and the flat roof in the village where they would lay all of these sheets, bed sheets, and put all of the figs that they had picked, because there was such an abundance, you could never eat through it all. So they would preserve it into jam, or they'd dry it into dried figs to eat.
When you think of your Lebanese heritage, what do you feel?
I feel abundance. There is abundance. So I've always been Lebanese, obviously. I'm born into a Lebanese family. I've had all of these, childhood memories centered around very much being Lebanese. No other, you ask any Lebanese person, most of them have returned to Lebanon several times on holidays.
Have you taken the girls back to Lebanon?
Not yet. Not yet. So my parents took us on 10 trips to Lebanon growing up, but we never went anywhere else. They never took us to Japan. They never took us to New Zealand. We never went to Europe. We went to Lebanon. When we could afford to go anywhere, we went to Lebanon. So these are very distinct things for Lebanese people. And then all of the other things, coming from a big family, the food, the allegiance to the culture, going to Arabic school on the weekend, Sunday school, learning the language, learning to read and write. It was so important to my family. But that kind of was all happening in the background. It wasn't until I was a little bit older that when I asked myself, who am I? What am I? I leant into my Arabness, my Lebanese-ness, and I found abundance. I found everything about what I wanted to be. So much of it came from me being Lebanese.
Let's look at the delineation. Are you Arab or are you Lebanese?
People drive me insane with this. I mean, all you need to do is go onto my social media and read the comments. I will describe myself as Arab. I will describe myself as Lebanese. I have mentioned that we are from the Levant. I have very mixed feelings around everything. I 100% say that I am an Arab. Okay? And I say that even more so because I have grown up in the West and I live in the West. And in the West, you don't really get to pick and choose. Like in the West, we're Arabs. In the West, to a Westerner, to anybody, in the headlines, in the descriptions, in the stereotypes, in whatever, I am Arab.
And are you proud in solidarity for your
Absolutely. Okay? So we are not afforded the luxury when we're labelled Arab, stereotyped as Arab. And growing up, I mean, I grew up in Western Sydney. We heard it a lot and it wasn't a good thing. Like to be an Arab meant to be, you were naughty, you were in the news, you were up to mischief, you were all of the messy things that they associate with us. But then when I looked at all of the amazing things that we are, and when I thought about how hospitable, the creativity,
So what
depth,
you took for granted.
Exactly.
What you took for granted, and when you looked at it in a Western context.
Yeah. I was like, absolutely, I'm fucking Arab. I am so Arab.
Let's talk about the book.
Yes.
The book is called Sofra. What does Sofra mean?
Sofra is a table spread of food. Like it's a spread. It's a spread.
And how did Sofra come to be?
As in the book or the title?
Both.
Both. Okay. The title, because the way the book is laid out is quite unique. Every chapter is a spread, so it's a collection of dishes, and it talks about and celebrates how we as Arabs, we as Lebanese people eat on the weekend. So how all of the menus are inspired by my mum's beautiful weekend lunches that she would put on, and it is quintessentially how Lebanese people eat. You know, when we gather our friends and family on the weekend, we want to have Sunday lunch, we put on a sufra for them. So there's never one dish. There's not one pot and one pot of rice. There's a collection of dishes. There's a good 6 or 7, 8 dishes on the table. And they are always the things that are laborious to make. We want to value our guests. It's our way of saying we love you. We want to spoil you. So all of the spoiling dishes.
Your social cause, which we've had before, it's medical aid for Palestinian MAP. Phoebe Greenwood, a previous guest, spoke about this. Why have you chosen MAP as your social cause?
the catastrophe that is Palestine and Gaza at the moment. The situation in Palestine at the moment is a genocide. That is how I'm going to describe it. It's a catastrophe. It is not a war. It is not a conflict. It is none of those things. It is a genocide of the Palestinian people. It is ethnic cleansing. It is erasure. And it has been going on since 1948. It's beyond words. I'm lost for words anytime I have to mention it or describe it. But it hasn't just started. This has been something that has been going on for 78 years now.
We have an MFK Fisher serve it forth tradition here at Three Food Memories. What would you like to serve forth to our next guest?
Stuffed vine leaves, vegetarian stuffed vine leaves, very lemony, and just as a meza, served room temperature cold. I think anytime I make them, eat them, serve them, there's just so much appreciation and joy. So that is definitely, like if I've made you warana babzet, that's what we call them, I'm very happy that you're here.
So in the beginning, I spoke of Lebanese people as a proud and passionate tribe of people. They're kind and generous. But what I left unsaid was injustice to them is a spark to a dry tinder. What stirs your anger like this?
Seeing the struggle of the Lebanese people and the way they have flourished in the countries. You know, the Lebanese diaspora is twice, triple the size of the population of the Lebanese people. They are superheroes to me. They are my real life superheroes. You know, and I don't have to go far to find them. I find them at the bakery, the Lebanese grocer, and I see these superheroes walking around, people who have been uprooted, people who have not only come and thrived, they have built this country, they have built community, they have added so much detail, sophistication, deliciousness when it comes to food and excitement. They are not necessarily afforded the luxury that I have to be able to sit back, observe and remark about it, and I've got to do it. I wear my heart on my sleeve, as cliche as it is to say that, because I feel like I owe it to them. I owe it to my grandmother who has passed. I owe it to my grandfather who weren't able to come and show this country what they really had, and they're not the only ones. And then I am uplifted and inspired by the ones that were able to, be it my in-laws who came and opened a fish and chip shop in racist Sutherland Shire as the only Lebanese Muslim family and became the most popular, noted. I mean, my mother-in-law can't even go to Coles because everybody knows who she is and she's 80 years old. You know, listening to their stories, they ignite me. That is what drives me. And then the juxtaposition being the media, the circus of the media. And, you know, when people meet me and they say, you don't seem Lebanese. What does Lebanese seem to you? Oh, you don't seem Arab. Why? Because I live in Drummoyne? Because I'm in a silk shirt and I'm at your dinner party? I am Arab. Everything that you love about me is because I'm Arab. Everything that you love, everything that you have asked me to talk about or brought me here is because of all of these characters in my life I've come into contact with, I'm yet to come into contact with, who have influenced. So they ignite my fire and keep it lit.
Karima Cherrafet, thank you so much for joining me on Three Food Memories.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of Three Food Memories. Be sure to spread the plated love and check out our 60 plus back episodes. They're still as delicious as they were when they came out of the oven. For all things TFM, head to the socials at 3 Food Memories for more info, and to send us a message, head to 3foodmemories.com. 3 Food Memories is edited by Lauren McWhirter with original music by Russell Torrance. Nasta kalafili, and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Papa's podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. Bye.